Hello and welcome everybody. And if you are having this issue here with Intellisense not being able to open up all these bajillion different generated header files for Unreal Engine 4, this video is for you. So this is a totally brand spanking new Unreal Engine 4 blank C++ project, right? We've got pretty much nothing in here, right? We open up our base game class and bam, we're immediately hit with 157 IntelliSense errors, which is exactly the right amount of errors I want to see when I open up a brand new project. What's happening here? Well, basically IntelliSense is just not finding these generated files, and typically what you do when you can't find the right header files in a C++ project is you right click on your project and you go open up the properties panel and you go to include directories and you dump the paths for all the includes that you need, right? Well, that was sort of like the original solution I had to this problem that that I posted. The problem is that this is actually adding the includes to the build, and if we try not to add things to the build, right? Limit your dependencies. So under nmake, I kind of found something cool here. You go under nmake, you go under IntelliSense, and there's actually this little area here called include search path. And when we put this same stuff, all these paths that we need under here, it's basically just hinting IntelliSense, hey, look here for resolving your include file problems, but we don't need to add them to the project. Just look here to find them so that you don't complain with your stupid little squiggles and 157 squiggles. So we want to edit this and we want to drop in like a good amount of stuff. So these are all the include paths we want to add. Now the problem is that Visual Studio kind of sucks a little bit when it comes to this. You can't really add a whole ton of includes at the same time. It sort of just breaks horribly. So what we're going to do actually is just not do it in a nice GUI. We're going to edit the file manually where these settings are being changed. So open up the root folder for your project. If you don't know how to get there super quick, right click your content folder, go to show and explorer, and then go up one level, and then it should be your project name and then a whole bunch of junk. It should look like this. There should definitely be an SLN file and a U project file. That's how you know you're in the right spot. All right, so once you're here, go into intermediate, go into project files, and then you should find this file named whatever your project is named .vcxproj. And you want to open this up with some kind of text editor. I'm going to use Notepad++. Just don't try to open this with Visual Studio or just double click on this file because all sorts of annoying things are going to happen that you don't want to happen. You could open this up with Notepad technically, but it's like, just look at this. I'd recommend you use like a half competent text editor like Notepad++. Just download that, or Atom or Visual Studio Code or whatever you want to use, Sublime Text, who knows. I'm going to use Notepad++. So we're going to open this up. It's going to look like this. Again, we want to search for this setting called nmake include. Wow, I cannot type, of course, during the video. And just go find next, and boom, this was the setting we were looking at in Visual Studio. Again, there's nothing special going on here. We're just not using Visual Studio's GUI. We're just actually editing the real settings file here. So this was the same thing we were looking at in Visual Studio. So we're going to take all this stuff we need and just copy this all, and then just paste it. And see, there's a little space here on the end that actually doesn't matter, but I'm just a little OCD, so I'll delete it anyway. And delete this one on the front too, because why not? All right, then save that out, close. You can just close out all this, and then go to Visual Studio, and it'll be like, whoa, this has been modified by an outside environment, and there's unsaved changes, and well, we're just going to discard. I don't care about unsaved changes. And it's going to reload quickly. Now let me explain what's going on with all this while Visual Studio is doing its thing. So basically what's happening here, I found basically all the stuff you need to add to your project to get all these generated files to work. You technically don't need them all, But you might as well put them all in because you never know, like, when are you going to add widget carousel? I don't know. I don't think I've ever used that personally, but you might. And then you don't want to have to go back in for everything you add. And you're like, oh, why is this breaking now? Oh, because I didn't just add all of them at once when I was fixing this issue. So you're going to, this first part here is basically all the generated include files or header files for your project. And the rest of this is just all of them for Unreal Engine 4. And these weird things with the dollar signs and stuff is just making relative paths. You don't have to like hard code it. This will work on anybody's computer. That's the idea here. It's not like C/, my username, blah, 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 you wouldn't want to go in and like edit for your directory for all these. So that's why, just a little explanation of why that looks like this. Now, if we go back in here, we check this out, we don't have errors anymore, which is really cool. So actually, yeah, like I said, that fix is pretty simple. The only gotcha here that I've found so far, and I've done some decent testing with this, it seems like everything else is working fine. I've tried, closing this, shutting down my computer, booting back up. It's, it keeps everything saved. I've just opened Visual Studio by itself, and it's still fixed. I only say that because before one of the things I was trying to do to fix this issue didn't save after I closed the project and reopened it. It seemed to keep coming back. So this solution seems to work. The only problem is let's just say we open up our main project folder here again. You go to U project. And you right-click on this, and sometimes you need to do this where you right-click on your .u project file, and you go to Generate Visual Studio Project Files, and sometimes the project files get regenerated for other various reasons, like I think maybe if you upgrade Unreal Engine to 4.20.2 or whatever when that comes out, that might regenerate these, maybe, I don't know. But let's just say all these errors came back, right? So I'll just do it now. Well, let's say this gets generated, and this might be what happens. If you see all these errors again, we're just going to reload this. It might be because your Visual Studio project was regenerated, and that settings file that we edited got nuked, and that's okay, because as long as we see a million include errors, we should immediately recognize, or at least some include errors for generated header files. We should be like, oh, okay, it's that stupid freaking problem that for whatever reason Epic decided to backlog. So we can just go into intermediate and project files and open this up with Notepad++ and go back to my form thread and edit this and paste it in and save and reload the solution. And you can see that took all of 5 seconds to do, so it's not the biggest problem in the world. And so, this ended up being not the hugest issue ever, but if you don't want to have to do that every time your project gets regenerated, or you just don't want to do it period, because it is kind of annoying that we have to do this at all, please go to my form thread. It's going to look a little different like this after I edit the video in here, but there should be a thing at the top in the second post that says vote on this issue. Just go there. We've got 72 votes so far, and just vote to get this fixed, because it's annoying and we just shouldn't have to deal with it. If you look, generally, if you just search for all Unreal Engine issues and you go to all the backlogged ones and then you sort by votes, you will see this problem is actually the third highest voted problem right now, which is pretty good. But let's just keep going. Let's really get this on Epic's radar, because as you see, if you look at all these other backlog guys, even the one with 253 votes, this has been sitting around since 2015. So I want this to get fixed. I don't have to keep doing this for perpetuity for every project from here on out, and I don't really want to have to go back to 4.19 either. So while this fix that I showed you works pretty well, please vote on this. Let's get this solved. Like I said, again, just watch out for this here, where you're generating anything happening to your Visual Studio project files. If they get nuked, something happens to them, you might see this problem come back. You might have to do this over again. But again, it's pretty quick. It's not the end of the world. So anyways, hope that was pretty useful for you guys. And yeah, post that thread if you have any more questions. There were some people that complained about somewhere in here, like some issues with maybe Unreal Engine being on a different partition or something like that. I don't know, that might be an issue. I'm not going to go so far as to test that. But for what I have tested so far, this solution seems to be pretty good. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope that helped.